All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Abundance Formula podcast. Today is a solo episode with me, and we're going to see how this goes. I am up very early. I've been up since like 5 o'clock, did my morning Bible study, got, my kind of notes together for this episode, and I'm going to see if I can get this in before my 3-year-old wakes up, because it seems that whenever I especially wake up early to get work done before she's awake, then she will wake up an hour or two earlier than she normally does. It's like she knows I'm trying to get something done. So it is highly likely that I will hear her in no time at all. So if so, I may have to pause and regroup and be back on here, or maybe just redo this. I don't know. So anyways, that's why I'm up early. Okay, so for YouTube, the YouTube video people, I promise some days I will do myself up. Today is not one of those days. I am totally in my robe, in my glasses, could totally use, washing my hair. But you know what? I am here for you guys and showing up. So this is what real life looks like. And I hope y'all are here for it. So today's episode is actually a requested topic from someone that messaged me. And I just want you guys to know, feel free to DM me at Jeana, spelled Jeana _ Oldham, Oldham. Feel free to DM me, or same thing, Jeana Oldham on Facebook. Or if you know me and have my cell phone number, feel free to text me any topics you'd like to hear on here, because this is obviously for you guys. So this particular person had messaged me to see if I would do a podcast topic, and I'll read this. And so I was like, of course I will. So I want to be able to provide stuff that you guys feel are missing out there, or that you haven't been able to find for support. And I'm happy to give that to you guys. So feel free to message me anything that you'd like to hear, because I will most definitely, if it's something that I feel like I can answer or provide for you, whether it be in a guest or from myself, then I will do that. So this particular request said, hey Jeana, any tips you have to stay focused and positive is most appreciated. I never hear that on all YouTube videos, so maybe it's a good podcast topic too. I also struggle with negative thought loops. So I thought this was a great thing. This is totally not, like, so many people feel this. So I'm excited that she brought this up. And so hopefully today will help you. So today I'm going to go through 3 things that are going to help you stay positive and also stay focused. So the first thing that I'm going to start with is, a lot of times, so stay focused. A lot of times that's for, like, we've got particular goals in life. So whether that is, we have goals in multiple areas of our lives. If it's in business, whether we're working for someone or working for ourselves, if it's for a health and fitness goal, if it's for relationship goals, our marriage, or wanting to find somebody, whatever it may be, our relationship with our kids. So goals in all kinds of areas of our lives. So a lot of times I think that's what, I know that that's what this particular person's talking about, is just staying focused towards whatever her goals are and then staying positive. So that's kind of what we're revolving with. So I've got 3 steps, 3 tips to help you do this. So number 1, the first thing that I just have to say, because it has just been tried and true in my life and is a redundant thing from all the guests that I've had on my podcast thus far, uncued, tipped off to respond this way. This is just something that's a commonality. So, but especially for me in my own life, I highly recommend, number 1, that you start your day off by getting plugged in to the scriptures. So for me, waking up and being able to read in the Bible is super huge. Now, some days I feel like I'll get all kind of wisdom nuggets and like inspiration and all this stuff from what I'm reading. And some days I don't have that kind of, it's just maybe there's, something positive, or maybe like one little light bulb moment, or maybe not even any, but it's just input. Okay. So you may think, well, I've read my Bible and it's not something that gets me going in the day. It's not something that gets me pumped. It's not something that motivates me, and it doesn't have to be for a long time. The reality is I get maybe 5 to 10 minutes to do it, because then I've got limited time again before my children are hollering in my ear. So I have multiple things that I do in the morning that are part of kind of my get start in the day. But this is what you're aiming for. This is what reading the scripture, I called it getting plugged in on purpose. So not every day when you read your 5 to 10 minutes or whatever segment of time, it may be 2 minutes. It may just be a short devotional, whatever it is. but make sure that it's got scripture. Make sure that it's actually got a Bible verse in it, because there's power in specifically the scriptures. And so again, you're not always looking for some hit you in the face segment, but it's plugging into the source of what I believe is the source of all the things in this world, the thing that runs everything. There's truth in science, that there's the frequency of this universe and this, abundance, attraction, law of attraction theory, all these things. And I believe those were created by a creator. And so the scriptures are the connection, the plug-in point to that power resource. And so what I found is that when you get plugged in the morning, you're now accessed to the main hub of all that there is in life. And so what happens is when you've gotten plugged in, even if in that plug-in moment segment, nothing specifically crazy's happened, you have now an amplified supernatural vision and hearing when you go through your day. You are now plugged in and in tune, in frequency with the world. You've plugged into the ultra creator. So now you are going to pick up on and hear and see the opportunities that he has for you in the pursuit of whatever the specific goals are for you. Like, this is a game changer for me. Like, at this point, I almost get stressed if I don't get in even a minute or two to feel it, plugged in. If I've missed it in the morning, somehow I will find a way to get it in later, even if it's through on Instagram, getting to the Bible verses page or whatever, because it has made such a difference in literally feeling like I have supernatural vision to see the things that are meant for me in the day and coming my way, or to pick up on, you're more plugged into your intuition. It's your communication center with God. So if you think about hanging out with a friend, if you never hang out with a friend and you're in a crowded stadium and they're hollering to you across the room to give you guidance on how to get to them or how to get to your seat, because they can see it but you can't. If you don't hang out with them enough, their voice isn't going to be familiar to you. It's not going to stand out in the crowd, in the messiness. But if you've spent enough time with them, you're going to know if that's, John's voice. You're going to know if that's Jane's voice, and you're going to hear it and be able to follow it better. So that's how I kind of view even the moments that I might get in the scripture, is getting better in tune with what God's voice sounds like, because it's present in all kinds of things. It can hit you through music, it can hit you through a connection with a person. It can be anything. But if you're not in tune to looking for it, you're not plugged in, it's a lot harder to pick up, or you will miss it. So getting plugged in is super, super huge for me. And it's another thing of just intentionally starting your day as a habit. It's part of showing up by choice and in action mode, as opposed to waking up and immediately your day is starting in reaction mode. So as far as this goal of staying focused and especially positive, the world's going to throw you curveballs every day, no matter what your plans are. It's very good to at the end of each day establish your brief plan for the next day, so you're already waking up with a plan. I always tell people you plan to succeed or you plan to fail. So if you don't have a plan, it's going to be really hard to hit your goals, because life throws so many curveballs. So you're going to be in a tizzy. So starting out with my plan of plugging into the scriptures and having this kind of brief routine that's implemented every day, I'm starting my day off in action mode as opposed to reaction mode, which makes you a lot less vulnerable and volatile with your emotions to whatever might happen in the day. So that's huge for me. So, and another verse that in this particular example that I'm getting, there's a verse that talks about in 1 Kings where Elisha, which is this prophet in the Bible back in history, that's in battle with the king, the king is in battle. And he's really stressed, and he's like, we can't win this. We don't have enough people. This is how many people they have. And so Elisha prays, Lord, open his eyes so he can see, and give him supernatural vision. That's what he actually says in the verse. And so it says, God opens his eyes, and then he can see that the hills are covered in chariots of fire with angels. So there was this invisible army that God had for him that he didn't even see. And so that's what I'm talking about, is when you have that supernatural vision, all of a sudden you can see all these seemingly invisible opportunities and connections and accesses there is for you to get to those goals and to get to those things, to get to those answers you're praying for, and to to give you peace around your worries. So when you have that level of knowing that God's got all this laid out already, it's just, are you going to see it and are you going to respond to it? So that's number one. Number two is to define and establish your standards. And so this is a mindset shift. So I'm almost finished reading Ed Milet's new book. If you don't know who he is, you need to go follow him. He's absolutely amazing. His newest book is called The Power of One More. And there's a chapter in there called One More Goal, which is perfect for this. And so this is the first time I've heard somebody phrase this way. So he states that goals are the byproducts and results of your standards, which is huge. That's a huge shift. If you don't have the steps that are to get to your goal, so the goal is the thing, but that's not the steps to get there. The goal is the dream, right? That's the fluff. But then you've got to have steps, action steps to actually get there. And he defines those as the standards, not the checklist, not the bullet points, not the to-do list, because those things are still not to a level of urgency and importance as if you were to label them as a standard. Because when we label them as a standard, now it's taken to a notch of, all right, this is actually linked to our internal integrity now as a person, right? So I always, since I'm a sports person, played sports my whole life, played high-level sports, my initial brain goes to, all right, that makes a world of a difference for me as an example, because if you want to be, Division A varsity team, there's a level of standards that are established for that team by that coach as to if you're going to be on this team and if you're going to be a starter and if you're going to be a champion, this is what makes that up. This is what standard of performance, standard of showing up looks like. And you either meet it or you don't, right? It's very clear. And anybody then that knows you're on the team and you're on varsity and you are a starter, they also are very aware of what your standards are, right? So like in school, it was a requirement if you were on varsity that when you're in your classes, you have to sit in the front row. That was one of the standards in your class. You can't sit in the back, you have to sit in the front. There was a standard of a grade you had to keep. So they had different standards. So if people knew we were on varsity, they knew they're already going to be sitting in the front row. So don't even ask them to come sit in the back and chit chat, right? Don't even ask them to go do something crazy all the night before the test when they will want to study and need to study because they got to get a certain grade, right? So there's a standard. And then we also knew the standard as the team. So you know what? There's standards for free throws. There's standards to practice. There's how many free throws we needed to make, or we're all running laps. We're all doing suicides, which suck if anybody knows what a suicide is. So you're going to practice in your off time so that you're not one of the people that misses the free throw on the team that requires everyone to have to do freaking suicides, right? So your standards will make you show up even when it sucks. Your standards are going to make it show up even when it's inconvenient for your goal. So I can't tell you how many days I practiced free throws outside. I practiced till it got dark. I practiced in the rain. I practiced even when it wasn't fun. I practiced when other people were doing other things that I might have wanted to do. But it was, the goal itself was important to me enough of being on that team and being a champion that I stepped up to the standard, that I held that standard for myself. And so when you make your checklist to get to the goal actual standards and get really clear on what those are, it's going to make a world of difference in your degree of focus. And so another example, again, whether you work for yourself or say you work for somebody else, any well-established business, there's their company standards. This is what they expect of their employees. Their standards of the particular position that you're going to hold. You're aware of that standard and you're going to make it if you want to keep that job, because you want to keep your job, right? So see how standards are, it's not like, okay, if you want this job, here's a little checklist of things you might want to get done. And, but if your day gets busy, you can just leave a few things off the list. No, right? If is this your job description? These are the standards of your job description. If you want to keep your job, you better hit them, right? So you're going to, right? There's a whole nother level of accountability when the to-do list or the checklists or the bullet points are actually standards, not just fluff. Right? So one other thing about standards are also not just the action steps, but they're also, if you think of them as what you are either willing to tolerate or what you're not willing to tolerate. So again, standards, these goals that we're talking about can be in anything. It's a health and fitness goal, a business goal, relationship goals, friendship goals, whatever it is. And so if you think of your standards of when you're kind of getting really clear on them, sit down. It's going to take a minute to sit down and get really clear, depending on the specific area. Maybe you're in the mode of like focusing on. But what are you willing to tolerate or not tolerate in the pursuit of getting this goal? And that's a really important thing to think about. So as far as in what you're willing to tolerate, that's how hard you're willing to work. How bad do you really want that goal? Because, so in the example of wanting to be on the varsity team, I wanted that goal bad enough to stay, out in the rain and shoot shots and run, and went to training camps and all these extraordinary things to be extraordinary in that sport. That was the standard I set for myself. But then in the example of what you're not willing to tolerate, let's use relationships as an example. How are you willing to be treated or not willing to be treated in the pursuit of your goal? Are you in the mission of finding self-worth again? If you're in that pursuit, and to stay focused on that pursuit, you really are going to want to get clear on what you're not willing to tolerate. So it really just gets you thinking. It really makes you get a lot of clarity in defining your standards. Again, because standards are linked to your internal integrity as opposed to just an external, separate from you to-do list. And the cool thing about when you do this, so really take the time to do this in whatever area of your life you're seeking focus and positivity, is when you do get your standards established and clear, and you start really consistently living those out, your environment is going to change around you, which is another integral key of staying focused and positive. Most of the time, what throws us off our game is our external environment, either the situations that are kind of happening around us, or especially the people and associations that we keep, right? So a lot of times, a lot of people I work with that are looking on getting healthy, the people around them aren't necessarily interested in getting healthy, which is fine. That doesn't mean they can't have them as friends. But especially if those people don't respect their new standard of like, hey, I'm looking at getting in shape, or I'm not looking at it, I'm getting in shape. I have a plan. I am paying somebody to do this. This is my game plan. Cheer me on, support me in it. Don't try to get me off track. Then people's friends will either be supportive friends and not try to get them on track, or they're ones that want to sabotage them so they have company, right? And it gets really clear to you who those people are around you. If you've been really clear on what your standard is, they'll either respect the standard or they won't. And so then that's people that either stay or they need to go, because your standards are important. But the other thing that's going to happen too, that's for people that are already kind of established in your life. But for any new people that come into your life, or even just new people around you that see you, when you live your standards, people are going to, through osmosis, know what your standards are. When you have, especially say talk about relationally or just socially, like you will have standards on how, people can speak to you and what you're going to tolerate there. I'll just use myself for example. This happens to be an area of a strong suit for me. Trust me, I'm not strong in all areas. I have plenty of flaws. I'm just using this as an example. But for me, I've been lucky enough to be pretty blunt and straightforward and clear in the relationships that I will have. And therefore, I don't have friends that are drama. I don't do it. I just don't do it. If you're drama, you're out. You may get 1 second chance, but I just don't do drama. But everybody knows that. So so at this point, now I'm not talking when you're in elementary school, middle school, high school. Well, even high school is when I got really clear on it, by freshman year. But in there, you're trying to figure out some of those standards. So I'm talking after I've figured those things out, right? I don't even attract those people today, because they know when they see me, when they meet me with my attitude, my presence, if I'm meeting somebody new, if it's somebody like that, we'll be nice and we'll be friendly in person, but they're not even going to try to hang out with me, because they know it's just not going to work, that it's just a waste of their time. It's not going to happen. So, and that's the cool thing. You start really naturally through just your presence, weeding out unsupportive things that don't serve you in your life, and that you wouldn't be a service back to them. So that's really cool. So when you take the time to really get clear on those standards, not only is it going to keep you more focused and more positive because you're just so clear. Clarity is everything in the pursuit of goals, focus, feeling fulfilled, feeling aligned, which brings us joy. Getting really clear is so important, and it will change your environment, which is then going to be create the more conducive environment to support you in whatever it is you're wanting to stay focused on, and being positive. So again, important to look at your environment, especially positive. Are the people that you surround yourself with most, are they interested in being really positive and focused on higher level things, good things? Are they bitter? Are they negative? Do they have negative humor that's kind of cutting down? Are they, just kind of start looking at things. But again, after you get clear and live those out consistently, it's going to eventually change your environment. It's going to create an environment for the better for you to stay focused and positive and be the kind of environment you want to fuel you towards what it is you're trying to pursue. So then number 3, lastly, is that you've got to take responsibility for your actions and your thought patterns. So number 3 ultimately comes down to that you are in charge. That's hard for some people. Some people are so used to not being in charge or being told they can't be in charge, right? So there's a lot of maybe self-worth issues that might come up here, but you've got to work through them because at the end of the day, it is your life. And you do get to choose who's in it and who's not in it. You do get to choose, most importantly, what you think about and your thought patterns, and it can be retrained. It can be retrained. And so you got to get honest with yourself and first start to assess your thought life and pick up on the patterns, and then you can create a plan around it. So like for me, for example, so I'll tell you, so this is an area that wasn't my strong suit. It's still in process. I'm working on this. It's not perfect, but I respond a lot faster. So I've made a lot of growth in this area. But so I'm somebody that can, like, if there's something that I'll wake up first thing in the morning. So I had to look at my thought patterns. I'll wake up first thing in the morning, and during some of the monotonous activities that don't take a lot of like actual thought, like getting the dishes kind of done and maybe picking up a few things around the house and prepping stuff for whatever for the day, kids' meals, whatnot. If there's something that irritated me yesterday or something that triggered me in the morning, I can sit there during that monotonous activity and think on this whole, play out this whole thing that never has happened in my head of all the things I would say to that person or the thing I would do and how I'd prove them wrong, whatever. My brain can do this whole rehearsal of a whole situation that didn't even happen. And then I'll look up and it's like noon, right? So I have totally been guilty of doing that in the past. And I realized that just didn't leave me with good feelings for the day. It siphons out energy. And so I was like, okay, I've got to fix that. And there's multiple points in the day that would happen. The drive to work, these different like monotonous periods where there was like empty brain space that wasn't being filled. And so I decided years back that that was not serving me and that needed to be fixed. And so I had to sit down and I can notice the patterns. And so this is a great example of how to think about this. Like if I'm writing someone a fitness plan, one of the first questions I ask them in our consult form is, hey, tell me what you've been doing. What's the day in the life of you look like? So that means I want to know, like, what's a typical day of eating look like for you? How much have you been working out or have you not been? Whatever's fine. I just want to know what you have actually been doing. How have you been eating? Have you been doing any cardio? Have you been weightlifting at all? If so, how much? Like, what does the day in the life of you look like? And then from there, we can see how far off track are you? Are you even off track, or is it just some minor tweaks? Or, it gives me an idea of how far off track are we. Then we're going to make changes. That's the next step. Now we're going to make changes. And then lastly, we're going to have accountability, which would be say with me. And we're going to have accountability of your progress and working on this. So your thought patterns and thinking about this, taking control of your choice of perception of life, your choice for positivity and focus, comes down to weight training of the mind. And so where do you see your fault points? So again, for me, it was first thing in the morning, the drive to work or drives taking the kids places, like the silent time there, just little pieces like that through the day, or doing the dishes, moments like that, doing the laundry, folding, quiet times like that. So if I knew those were my like at-risk times, I became aware. Like awareness is number one. Aware of what your improvements need to be. Awareness of your areas of pitfalls. And then I thought, okay, so then first thing in the morning, I needed to have a more established morning routine. So then I started to first thing I was going to read my scriptures. After that, I might take 10 minutes, 15 minutes to actually just read a book I was interested in. And then after that, I'd get to, some of my morning work. And then after that, the kids are going to wake up and we'll get to our actual day. And then while I'm doing some things like getting to the dishes, some of these monotonous activities, I would turn on, have one little earbud in so the other ear I can hear the kids. I would have some meditation music going, because having music would break me out of a state. Like any negative state that you do get in, you'll get more aware of catching it faster and can break yourself out of it. So I'll have the meditation music going and doing the dishes, and I'm doing good, and I'm listening to meditation. I'm doing some visualization in my head while I'm doing the dishes, listening to this music. If my mind wants to drift somewhere to something that had irritated me, I catch it really quickly at this point. This has been a couple years in process, but now I catch it really quick. I'm like, no, we're not even going to do that. And I just tell my mind, just like you tell a toddler, no, we're done with this tantrum and we're moving on. And then I get back to my meditation music and I re-hone back into the present. And it's that whole process. And the more you do this, the better you're going to get at that. And the faster you're going to turn things around. It really is pretty quick now for me. I'll catch that I'm in this negative thought loop wanting to start up, even maybe it's gone on for 30 seconds. And I'm like, no. If I don't have my meditation music on that moment and I catch myself, then I'm going to get to doing something. I'm going to change my state. I'm going to walk from one side of the room to the other. Or if I'm sitting, I'm going to get up for a minute and just get some movement going. You just got to change your state and you're back on track. So that would just kind of be an example of so then whatever times of the day for you that might be, that these negative thoughts, say, oh, here we go. So this is a common one that I was hearing. A lot of people during cardio will get negative thought loops. They're like, man, my fat story comes up while I'm doing cardio, and I don't think I can do this. And, I'm tired, but all the negative thought loops really kind of ruminate when someone's doing cardio. Well, so then I'd say, all right, if you know that one of the times that this is at risk in your head, this negativity and loss of focus for your goal happens here, then plan ahead for that. So what are you listening to while you're doing cardio? Are you just listening to top hits? That's typically fine and motivating, some upbeat music, but what is the content of that music? I mean, probably 50% of the time I'd say it's probably going to be about breakups, or I'm going to show you, or, getting with this person or whatever, which again is all fine. So the music, the beats, that's all pump up. But if for you, that in that segment you go down this negative thought loop, then plan ahead and say, all right, I'm not going to listen to music, even if it's good, even if it's, say, not top hits, whatever music pumps you up. If you know that you don't stay focused on the music and trail off into negative thought loops, let's think of something more engaging you can listen to. Try listening to a podcast, try listening to a sermon if you're into that, or try listening to these motivational little blips that are on YouTube, or watch some interviews of people that you aspire or are inspired by. Just get creative on thinking, okay, well, what can I listen to then in these cardio segments where my mind wants to drift, because the music's not holding my attention, right? So try something different that requires some mental focus, and it's going to really change the game. Or again, if you're listening to a lot of things that aren't actually positive in the car, then shift it. If it was a little more negative music, just shift it to a little more positive music. So that's just some ideas to get you thinking. And another just cool example as far as, again, just your choice of how you want to perceive your life, and it's totally up to you. I saw this really cool little thing on Instagram that was a segment that said, if you had $86,400 in an account, and if someone stole $10 from you, would you go through the remaining $86,390 in hopes of getting back at that person? Or would you just move on with your life? Because there's 86,400 seconds in a day. So don't let X number of seconds ruin the whole rest of your day. I thought that was such a again, it's all about perception. It's so true. However many seconds, even if it was minutes of your life, if those were in dollars, would you actually spend that many dollars? I mean, you're wasting it. I mean, it kind of amplifies the degree of waste that you associate with spending time ruminating on those thoughts or whatever it may be, that person, that situation. And we do get to choose if we move on from it, if we nip those in the bud. And I get it, that can sound like, oh, well, that's great fluff, but you don't know what's going on in my life. You don't know the struggles. You know what? everybody has a lot of struggles, and oftentimes as bad as you or even worse. And at the end of the day, there's just too much proof out there from people that have even worse things going on in their life that are living bigger and better than you might be, because they chose it. Not because they were facilitated for it, because they chose it. You know, I've got too many examples just from my patients that I see at work that just, you know, they have so much not going for them in life, yet they are happier, better people than many people that I actually know that have every capacity to do whatever they want, you know, and it's a mind choice. So that's step number 3, is that you just got to take responsibility for your actions and your thought patterns, and know that it is up to you to become aware, to be honest with yourself, and have high intentionality and awareness around your current thought patterns, if they need to be improved, where the temptations to pitfall and lose sight of focus and lose sight of positivity are in the day, and plan for those, just like you plan in a fitness plan. When do you get your cravings in the day? When do you, you know, and you plan ahead for those. Where do you lose energy? How can we eat better to help the energy at this time of day when you're going to really want to falter? It's just like anything else, but you just got to take the time to do it, and recognize if you need that, right? So those are my top 3 things for staying focused and keeping positive. Number 1, start your day getting plugged into scripture. Number 2, define and establish your standards. And then 3, take responsibility for your actions and thought patterns. So hope this was helpful for you guys. Hopefully it fills a gap for you if you weren't able to find this kind of information like this chick that was messaging me. Let me know if you enjoyed this episode. If so, what really helps podcasters the most is to leave a 5-star review and to share this episode either on your social media or share it just with a friend to listen. That helps us so much, especially the 5-star reviews. I mean, sharing as well, because it brings new audiences that can also leave these 5-star reviews and share and just continue that pattern. But the 5-star reviews really help, because then when I'm asking big guests to come on, they're going to go check it out. They'll see that there's these great reviews and good feedback, and it's going to be even more encouraging for them to want to come on. So if you could just take a moment to even leave a 5-star review, that'd be great. And if you want to go above and beyond and share, you know, screenshot this episode and share it in your stories, would be absolutely amazing. Make sure to tag me and I will shout you out. So thank you guys so much. And again, remember, you can message me to ask for any specific topics that you would particularly like to hear. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great, let's see, what is today? Today's Tuesday, but this will probably come out Thursday. So hope you guys have an excellent day. Stay focused, stay positive. You've got this, and I will catch you on the next one.